Morning, it's the December 5th, 2023 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Do I have a motion on the Clerk General?
So moved.
And yes, and the requisitions, just a couple.
I will move them forward.
And yes. Okay, next item on the agenda, we have Bill Kennedy, the Chief Archaeologist with the Ohio History Connection. We have a proclamation to present to you, but come on forward if you want to introduce yourself and tell us the highlights of it before we recognize the Fort Ancient Earthworks.
My pleasure. So I'm Bill Kennedy. I'm with the Ohio History Connection, which is your state history partner. And I'm the site manager and site archaeologist for Fort Ancient Earthworks and Nature Preserve, and also for Serpent Mound. So we are very excited to be bringing Fort Ancient to a wider audience, because this is a kind of auspicious moment in Fort Ancient's history where Fort Ancient, along with 7 other earthworks, have achieved World Heritage status, which is a very, very exciting time. So thank you for having me this morning.
Well, thanks for being here. We know this has been a long time coming. I've seen this in many iterations of attempts when I was in the Ohio House and then the Ohio Senate, and now it finally got done in September, so that's really exciting. So I know there's lots and lots of people who have put forward this application on many instances to make this happen. So we're really honored here to be able to recognize and honor that Fort Ancient Earthworks and the Ohio History Connection for becoming Ohio's first UNESCO World Heritage Site. So, Dave, do you have any remarks before we?
Well, no, I think it's great. Why don't you, I know it's multi-county, all of these earthworks.
Yes.
Can you focus a little bit and maybe talk about the uniqueness of what's going on inside of Warren County in particular?
Sure. So let me just show you a couple of slides here.
Excellent.
Just to kind of put things out there. So the World Heritage nomination is not just for Fort Ancient. It is for 8 different sites altogether, of which Fort Ancient is the westernmost, and collectively they are known as the Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks. This is World Heritage is something that's bestowed. It's a designation given by UNESCO. It is not something that Americans are generally as familiar with as people from other countries, but it is based on the American National Park System. And the premise is that there are some places that are of such significance, whether they be cultural or natural heritage, that they transcend national boundaries and are worthy of the highest level of recognition that's possible. There are different criteria that are used, but Fort Ancient and the other earthworks were nominated for 2 of the 10 criteria, one of which is that they are masterpieces of human creative genius. What that designation does is it puts Fort Ancient and these other sites on the same level of recognition as many famous natural and cultural sites around the world. So we're talking about places like the Great Wall of China, the pyramids in Egypt, Stonehenge, and about 1,000 places worldwide. In the United States, we have relatively few. There are only, as of September, 25 total. So when we are talking about Fort Ancient and these other sites, they are collectively one site, but it has 8 locations because they're spread a little bit across the state. Hopewell is referring to a religious movement that was happening in Eastern North America about 2,000 years ago to about 1,600 years ago. It is not something that is unique to Ohio, but it is something that most people in Eastern North America were participating in, and it reaches a fluorescence in Southern Ohio that it doesn't reach anywhere else. There are other Hopewell sites, but none of them are really quite as extraordinary as the ones that we have in Warren, Licking, and Ross counties. So the earthworks, these are not like all of the Hopewell earthworks. There are many, but these are the ones that are best preserved. They're the ones that are best known, best studied, And so these 8 were selected from several dozen potential sites to be the ones designated here. Fort Ancient is the one representing the Little Miami River Valley. There are 5 in the Chillicothe, Ross County area. Those are all administered by National Park Service. And then we have 2 over in the Licking County area, which is the Newark Earthworks, and that includes the Great Circle and also the Octagon. What is extraordinary about these sites? It is many things, but one of them is that these are large earthworks. They are earthen constructions. There are also other things there too. There are timber constructions and things that are obviously after 2,000 years no longer visible above ground. But these are very large. Fort Ancient alone, if you were to quantify how much earth was moved just to build the walls of that earthwork, it's the equivalent of 125 million basket loads of soil at 30 pounds apiece. So these are very extraordinary accomplishments. They are generally done in the form of geometric shapes, circles and squares and octagons. Fort Ancient is the only one that is in this group that is not a geometric earthwork. So by geometric, if you think of like on the left, Mound City in Chillicothe, or on the right, that is the Octagon and the Great Circle. There are many things that we can understand by looking at these people, one of which is that they had a sophisticated understanding of geometry. We are taught geometry in a very narrow way. We're taught that geometry is formulas, and that is the only way to do geometry. But in fact, there are other ways to understand the relationships of areas and perimeters and things like that. You can teach geometry to children by folding paper without actually using formulas. These people had a very sophisticated understanding of geometry, which is doubly impressive considering they did not have a written language. Another thing that is often joined with the geometry that is very extraordinary is the astronomical alignments at these sites. These include solar alignments, solstices and equinoxes. That in itself isn't actually that unusual or extraordinary, but they include also lunar alignments. That is very unusual, and very few people in the world follow or even understand the lunar cycle. It is difficult to explain to a modern audience how the lunar cycle works. Some of these alignments, for lunar alignments, take 18.5 years to complete one cycle. So this is one of the alignments at the Newark earthwork. The entire site is itself, the main axis of the site is a lunar alignment. Fort Ancient's very different because it's a hilltop enclosure. It has over 100 acres enclosed. One thing that is kind of deceptive about a place like Fort Ancient is that its size, we're looking at the final result of multiple centuries of construction. The part on the south, people started building at about 100 BC. They were still building on this earthwork in 400 or 500 AD. So these are multi-generational works. These are very specific to the landforms that they're on. And they have geometric forms even at Fort Ancient. There are 4 stone mounds in the northern part of the earthwork. And a couple artists' reconstructions. So what World Heritage means for the community is that this is obviously very important to recognize the indigenous history, but when we think about what does it mean in terms of heritage tourism, World Heritage is something that invariably becomes a very useful marketing tool because it brings awareness, not just internationally, but locally. When you see the big gains that come from World Heritage, those do not come from people in other countries suddenly becoming aware of the sites and coming to visit. That happens too, but what it really does is it gets the attention of your local and regional community. And what we have already seen in the short time that we've been a World Heritage Site is, sure, there's a boost in the number of people that are coming, but fundamentally, it's a different type of visitor. Typically, most of our visitors to Fort Ancient traditionally are people who are, if they're non-local, they're people who travel south on 71. They're on their way to Cincinnati or somewhere else. They come from Columbus or Akron or Cleveland, and they see the sign, and it hits at a good time for them to stop and take a break. What we are already seeing is people who are coming in that have made a planned trip to come to Fort Ancient today. That's the most important type of visitor that we can get in terms of heritage tourism, is the planned visitor, because those are the visitors who are not on their way somewhere else. They have made a specific trip to be here, and that means they're much more likely to spend the night in the area. So their economic impact is much greater than a pass-through visitor. We've been working with the Convention Visitors Bureau, along with dozens of other groups, most recently the Warren County Outdoor Recreation Group, to help promote not just nationally or statewide, but also to promote regionally. So this is very complicated, of course, because we've got 3 different counties in 3 different parts of the state, and aligning all of those CVBs and other agencies and groups that are helping to promote these sites. World Heritage on its own would not generate that much more visitation. It is how you use it. It is how you market it. It is how communities take advantage of that designation.
Awesome, that's very helpful. Yeah, we think about tourism's our #1 industry inside of Warren County to begin with, and having now this world designation is awesome. So I know a lot of people worked for a long time to get us to this point, so congrats to everyone involved.
Thank you. Only took about 18 years.
That was yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot
You know, no one's
quicker.
pointed that out before. That's actually a good point.
A lot quicker than it took to build them, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So,
Well, very good.
Yep, we have a proclamation. Do you mind if we get a picture when we present
Sounds
this to you? But we just really wanted to recognize this accomplishment. Oh, I'm so sorry, Tina. Of course, have to do the fancy picture. Of course. Come on up. Great.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for being here. Appreciated your presentation. Okay. Now, I think we're moving on to the Warren County Historical Society. It's a day of history for us
Class #2.
today.
The professor is in the house.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you. I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of give you a bit of an update of what we're doing. We've been working with Bill and OHC and the Ohio Hopewell Earthworks Committee on this World Heritage Site, of which we're thrilled with the designation, and we're making sure that the Warren County Historical Society becomes the glue pot where people get stuck, either coming to or going from the World Heritage Site at Fort Ancient. We've been doing an awful lot in the last year. With World Heritage in particular, our collection is recognized by the Smithsonian as one of the finest in the country for Hopewell, Fort Ancient, and Adena. As a matter of fact, the first book the Smithsonian ever published was on the mounds of Ohio, and they're going to publish a new one in 2025, and they're beginning with our collection that was assembled by Leonidas Simonton in the 1880s and 1890s and remained here in Warren County. We're also going to be featured in Ohio Archaeological Magazine as a go-to destination point for this. And I'm very happy to announce that we will, in April, be receiving a gift of $400,000 in Hopewell pottery to be added to that collection, which will really make our collection a stopping point for people who are specifically interested in the World Heritage Site at Fort Ancient. We've been doing a lot of other things as well. The museum has for the first time established an advisory council where we've pulled together educators, corporate leaders, attorneys, politicians, together to advise the board on a 10-year plan to make sure that the museum is stable and that we're serving all of Warren County. We've also initiated an affiliate membership so that every one of the museums in Warren County is given support by the Warren County Historical Society. Support in the way of grant writing, in the way of PR and marketing, in presenting them on our website and in our mailings. I think that's significant. It's an amazing thing when you realize that our little museum is attracting attention on a wider basis. We had a group of artists from Tokyo who flew into Greater Cincinnati Airport, came to Lebanon and spent the day. Why? They had researched and found that our Shaker collection was the best in the world. They wanted to look at that and our collection of Empire furniture. They stayed the day, stayed the night at the Golden Lamb, and returned to Tokyo the next day. A specific thing from the National Museum in Tokyo. We've had people from the Peabody Museum in Harvard. There were 2 curators, and they said to me, we cannot believe a county, a community, has a museum of this quality. This museum should be located in a larger metropolitan area or associated with an institution of higher learning. Next year, we're going to be having a visit by one of the members of the Royal Collection in London because we were gifted with 2 paintings that were owned by King Edward VII in the last year. Amazing paintings done in the 1700s. And this last year, we had a wonderful visit by His Excellency the Ambassador from the King of Sweden, because the King of Sweden specifically is interested in Shaker furniture. So there may be, who knows, an exchange exhibit going on between Stockholm and Lebanon. Who knows? As far as collections go, in the last year and in the coming year, we will be gifted by a patron with $1.1 million in American folk art and European folk art. This fellow retired. He has a collection in 9 major museums. He's on the board of the American Folk Art Museum in Manhattan, the Abbey Aldrich Rockefeller Folk Art Museum in Williamsburg, and he said, I'm retiring, coming home to Cincinnati. I want to bring my collection together, and I want to bring it to Warren County. We will have a larger collection than either the Cincinnati, Columbus, or Cleveland Art Museum when this is finished. The problem is we're running out of space, of course, which I guess is a good thing. In addition, we're doing an entire exhibit on the Little Miami River and all of the mills. I get so tired of people saying, well, where was Stubbs Mill? Where was Mather's Mill? There were 200 and some mills on the river, and yet they're not located on any map. So we're doing a huge topographic map that will display that, plus the flora and fauna that live along and in the river. People don't often know that the largest single freshwater pearl in the world was in Queen Camilla's crown, and it came from the Little Miami River just south of Waynesville and was sold by Tiffany's in 1893. We've also increased our educational initiatives. The Elva Adams Educational Fund is working on what we call the Museum Ambassadors Program, which is engaging teachers in all the schools of Warren County, K through 12, in integrating the use of the things in our collection into their curriculum and education. We're also offering students the Museum Explorers Program, which I think is very exciting because that's divided elementary and high school, where they can do community service and learn about careers in museum sciences, in the arts, so forth and so on. We were approached recently by the National Endowment for the Humanities, and they wish to center a first of 3 PBS programs on our collection of photography. Warren County has some of the earliest photographers and daguerreotypists west of the Alleghenies, and importantly, 4 of them early were women. They found that incredibly significant, so we're now working with the National Endowment on this PBS series that will probably be broadcast in late 2025. Just last week, the National Daughters of the American Revolution and the American Revolution Battlefield Committee has allowed us and selected us as the site for the Revolutionary War exhibition, which will be the only host in Ohio. It is a multi-million-dollar exhibit. They chose us because of our connections, our piece of George Washington's desk, and our chalice that was owned by the 13th signer of the Revolutionary War Declaration of Independence, John Hart, who was a Warren County citizen. It's an exciting time at the museum. We have, of course, put forward a request for a state capital budget because while we're operating at full tilt, as quickly as we operate, the old building is collapsing down around us. So an air conditioner here and a boiler there, and leaky windows, because all of those things impact the care of this ever-growing and ever-special collection to the citizens of Warren County. On December the 16th, we're having an open house with free admission to everyone in Warren County. We're going to do that 3 times a year so that people can get to know their own museum. They don't have to go to Cincinnati, to the museum center. They can have a great experience here, right here in Warren County. And I hope that becomes a tradition that we stay with for quite a while. So on behalf of our board and membership and staff, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you have any questions.
Thank you for being here today.
Okay.
Dave, you have any
I
questions?
think he's my favorite visitor every time he comes.
I'm sort of like the groundhog. I only come once a year, and then I disappear.
Well, I certainly enjoy it. I always learn a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Okay, next we have a consideration of an expedited type 2 annexation of 0.8143 acres to the city of South Lebanon. Richard Paolo, agent. Do we have someone here to speak on that?
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Rick Paolo, petitioner for the agent representing Joe Ferrugia. He can go into just very brief detail as to why this is being annexed. The county engineer has approved this in the form in accordance with all statutory requirements. So I'll let Joe Ferrugia explain the annexed property.
So we are purchasing the, it's called Irwin property at the corner of Stryker and Grandin. And this piece is on Stryker, this wedge of property. It used to be old right-of-way for Stryker Road. That years ago, there was a lot of turns in Stryker, and we, with the county, we engineered that road to be more safer travel, actually. We just straightened it out. And this piece was residual from that old right-of-way. And it's also the access point to the property that we're purchasing. There would be no lots on the property. It would be just open space or right-of-way, a new right-of-way.
So it's this big piece, parcel here is what you've purchased, and this annexation falls outside of the city currently, and you want to bring it into the city.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you don't anticipate any development on there. It's merely old right-of-way that you just want to make the parcel contiguous.
Right. And it would have a connection to Stryker, the right-of-way, new right-of-way.
Bruce, is there anything we should know about here?
Was there an objection by the township?
No.
Then that is deemed a consent. And as Rick indicated, the county engineer's report indicates it's in compliance and unless there's some other issue I'm not aware of, you should approve it.
Great. Well, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here today.
Thank you.
The clerk have a resolution.
I have a resolution to approve the annexation of 0.8143 acres to the city of South Lebanon, Richard Palo agent pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 709.023, also known as an expedited type 2 annexation.
Bruce, do we need to keep that, or we've got that, don't we?
You have the Mylar in the back room to be signed, and they'll take care of that today.
Very good, so moved.
Yeah, we left it with the engineer's office, Bruce.
We have it.
Second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully you guys learned something today.
Well, I do want to say, Commissioner, unfortunately, I have never been to Fort Hazen, and this was fascinating. I think that's the next trip that I want to spend, the day up there. It was just incredible.
Well, when you come, spend some money too.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here today. I know we have some add-ons to the agenda.
Well, the first two are in your packet for consideration, but not on the consent. The first one is to authorize Tiffany Zindell, County Administrator, to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Warren County Sheriff and the Warren County Sheriff's Office Benevolent Association.
Yeah, this is just to clarify their, the process for, the sheriff making discretionary decisions, to bring, corrections officers, forward to go to the, some law enforcement academy to become a sworn officer, as well as potential outside candidates. It's just clarifying the language that the sheriff does have discretion in who he brings forward.
So moved.
And yes?
I have a resolution to authorize the board to proceed with not opt out, proceed with and not opt out of settlement agreements with 3M and DuPont as a partial settlement of Warren County's claims in PFAS litigation.
So moved.
And second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And the last one is an add-on. I have a resolution to approve an appropriation adjustment within Clerk of Courts General Fund 1101-1282.
Just within,
Within.
so moved.
And yes?
That's all that I have.
And Tiffany, do you have anything, or Martin?
I do not, just to mention, you probably will start to see a lot of adjustments going on as we move into the end of the year, with the last payroll coming up. So you will probably see many more of those.
Great. Okay, so we have a budget work session then, and we'll just head on over to that.